Hi, welcome to Laura's View and Tarot 2. I'm really glad you're here. Today's date is Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. It is the summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere. It's the longest day of the year. And the top story in our news today seems to be about a missing submersible sub, a Titanic sub that belongs to the company OceanGate. There's 5 people on board, and I am not going to try to outdo news outlets that are providing you with information about the members of that expedition, the reporting. I'm going to come at this from a different angle, and let's look at a few things that I've got in a compilation, and then ask the tarot cards a couple of questions about the situation. And I say a couple of questions because one might not narrow it down well enough. So with that being said, I'm going to a share screen, and the compilation that I'm referencing in this share screen will be available to you if you click on the Facebook link in the video description box for this video. Let's see what I compiled as I was getting curiouser and curiouser. And for those of you that are English teachers and grammar experts, I know it should have been more and more curious, but I wanted to use the terminology curiouser. So here is a picture of this submersible Titanic sub. And smart Anons are asking these questions. Was this a means of escape for a Pakistani billionaire who might be involved in something nefarious? Is the sub using the Terra Mar tunnels? Is it as simple as a catastrophic failure of the sub? Will it ever be, in quotes, found? Do we even know for sure that this even took place? Or are we being told this and expected to believe this on face value? Millions are being spent to locate this sub. Is it another diversion, another money laundering project, or another escape by a wealthy individual who will wind up in South America or Antarctica? And as always, folks, when we have a huge story that is taking up the news, let's look behind it and see what is not being covered that should be, whether it's usually something political and corruption and dirt. We know the usual players. Okay, there's a YouTube 5-minute video out that is about this tragedy. I included that YouTube link. Here is one about the people lost in the sub. There are 5 people, Stockton Rush, who's the CEO of the company that owns this sub. There's Amish Harding, and he's with Action Aviation. The billionaire they've been talking about is Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleiman. And then Paul-Henri Nargelot, and I apologize if I butchered any of those names. He's a Titanic expert. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about that sub. Okay, it's got carbon fiber with titanium on the ends, okay? The thing's going to implode into a million shards, and the only thing left to find if it does implode might be the titanium domes on both ends. Assuming those survive, there won't be any body parts to recover. Okay, there's enough money involved with the passengers to make this doable. And these are Anon comments. Also, I don't know if there were investors, but if this sub was a bust or a scam, this is an easy way to make the whole thing and the dude in charge disappear with no repercussions. Now, let's talk about the billionaire a little bit. Okay, Mr. Dawood is a WEF member. He's also a board member of the Engro Corporation, mergers and acquisitions of diversified public listed companies across textiles, fertilizers, foods, and energy. He's a WEF stooge, basically, working also for King Charles's Prince's Trust International. Well, let's take a quick peek at that. The trust has been scandal-ridden. There's been talk of disappearing teen participants that's long accompanying that program. Kids go in and don't seem to come out, okay? And he even had a cash for honor scandal that made Newsweek mention here a couple of years ago. Back to the sub, okay? Carbon fiber wrapping is used to make high-pressure storage tanks for hydrogen used in fuel cell vehicles because they are good at containing the hydrogen and preventing explosion. Why would anyone think this would be a good application for a submarine needing to prevent implosion? Carbon fiber wrap is essentially a really strong fabric, like a fabric balloon. Okay, and then here's a CBS News, what to know. And I've shared in the past that when news articles start with what you need to know or everything you need to know, that's it's usually not. It's usually not. Oh, one of the things I wanted to mention, let me go back to that share screen. The picture of the sub, let me get back to that real quick, because this is where it got intriguing for me. Okay, in this picture of the sub here, with the end here, there are 16 bolts, and there's several pictures across some of the links I gave you that show the end of this sub with 16 bolts. But for some reason, multiple news sources, including the second one here, are now talking about how there are 17 bolts. 17 bolts. You can do a quick search and find reference to the 17 bolts, but it's obvious if you look here that there's 16. Okay, so back to the chatter I was reading about. There was a consensus among several people that were discussing this that the 17 mention of bolts, especially the multiple 17s, was a coded communication. Now, when there's a 17, that refers to usually something related to this with the white hat, because they were saying that if this is a psyop, if this is an elaborate disappearance scheme on the part of some people that needed to make an exit that wouldn't be questioned, no one would ever wonder why there were no body parts found or things like that. It could as easily have been a black hat operation as a white hat operation. With the news outlets now saying 17 bolts, I think the nod is more towards the white hats. If it even happened, guys, we're taking it on faith. This reporting, it could all be CGI, the whole thing. So here's what I want to do with my tarot read, my initial one here, and it may be the only one we do. I just want to ask the universe to inform and advise us on, has this incident even actually occurred in our timeline? Has it occurred, and are there other insights and information the universe wants us to know? So let's see. Let's see. One moment, I'll change the screen. You can watch me shuffle and we'll find out together. Okay, so the insights and information we're asking for the universe involve this reported submersible disappearance that was a Titanic sightseeing expedition. Has this incident even occurred, period? And are there other insights and information the universe wants us to know? Okay, our first card is the Ten of Swords. Then we have the Four Cups, King of Wands, Eight of Cups, Knight of Cups, Wheel of Fortune, and the Seven of Pentacles. Okay, I'm going to share the insights I'm getting from the cards, and then I will show you elements of the cards that kind of bolstered the statements I'm making. First of all, this is an elaborate disappearance scheme on the part of one or more of the members of that expedition. I'm thinking especially of the father and son. I could see where a father would say, not without my son. Okay, we've got the 10. It was time for their current public personas to be ending. It is also being used as a major news distraction. So again, let's look at the background, guys, and see what things we're not hearing about. Okay, and yeah, I mean, that's where I'm going to go on this, is that, yeah, there was a sub involved, but it's a disappearance scheme. It is. There's a lot of fraud and trickery involved with this entire scenario going on. Now, whether these people will, yeah, like we said, end up beyond the ice wall in Antarctica, who knows? The nod in the media, though, to the 17 bolts lets me think that maybe there is some use of one or more of these people by the White Hats, the Alliance, in what's going on. Maybe they had information, maybe they had access to something. I'm not sure about that, but I do see that this is a very elaborate disappearance scheme. Let's get a couple more cards and see what they have to tell us. Okay, we have another ending with the 10 of Wands and the Queen of Pentacles. Okay. Then we have the Knight of Swords, another White Hat card, kind of nodding to, yep, I was on the right track, thinking that the White Hats are involved here with this disappearance. And then again, careful use of resources. So I would say, especially in the case of Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleiman, he had some information. Maybe he got caught up in things, and once it was going to involve his son, his conscience kicked in, his heart kicked in, and he said no. And that's why this disappearance. So I'm going to go on record here saying that even though they're saying they've heard some banging noises and we're in that last 24 hours supposedly of their oxygen supply and things like that, I'm going to say that they are not going to recover that sub. And that's where I'm going with this. We'll know in a day if I'm right or not, right? If it imploded, there's nothing to find other than the endings of the submersible itself. And yeah. Okay, let's recap. We looked at just a small selection of some of the reporting that's out there about the missing Titan mini sub, the submersible. And we noted in there that there is talk of, even though there's quite evidently 16 bolts on the end of that sub, they keep talking about the 17 bolts that have got those people trapped inside there. Even if they were to reach the surface, they would still need help getting out. And there were some anomalies with this. The owner of this OceanGate company is on board. That company is very aware of numerous safety issues in the past. And it would seem to me, if this was my company and I wanted it to be in good standing, I would correct all of those before I stepped foot in it myself. There's just a lot of questions involving this entire thing. So we just asked the universe, with an eye to the fact, especially that this is probably a huge distraction for something, whether it's changes in our world or the political scene or corruption or what have you. It's always good to look deeper. We said, did this even has this event even happened? It could all be just a matter of CGI and reporting, period. We're just taking it on faith that the story is true, that this expedition took off and then there were issues several hours into the dive, you know, that they disappeared. And so we asked, did it even happen? Now, and then I asked for other insights and information. What I got from the cards here, first of all, for the situation. This was the ending, okay, an ending of the life story for those 5 participants, okay? But I got that it involved more of a disappearance. So this was a planned disappearance. And I didn't get insights into exactly who, if all 5 knew of this, or my strongest thought and intuition was towards the billionaire who has WEF ties and ties to the Princess Trust that has had scandals and teen disappearances for years and years. And then the CEO of the company, if he was struggling, I mean, and he was approached, it was a good time for him to come up with a whole new life somewhere else. Okay, now, the near future card we got was the Knight of Cups, which is a card of false promises and trickery, which bolstered my thought that this entire event has not played out anywhere near how we've been told it has. Okay, that it's more of an elaborate disappearance scheme for people. Those involved are going to have slightly reduced circumstances, I think, moving forward from what they're used to. I say that because one of the insight cards we got, our final one was the, that involved the white hats, was the, Four of Pentacles. I'll get to that in a second. Now, our strongest insight card was the Wheel of Fortune. And I've often said that when the Wheel of Fortune shows up, in these complicated times, it's always moving towards the light. Again, it's a nod to the fact that this, in some way, these disappearances are going to benefit the Alliance in some form or fashion. That's why it's been facilitated by them, and the comms coming out about the 17 kind of relate to that. We got some additional insights and information. The first two additional insights and information were the Queen of Pentacles. Now she's generous and compassionate and sovereign, and then another 10 of Wands, which is the ending of some events. So I'm smiling again because while there's some generosity involved, the white hats are going to make sure they're not quite as well off as they were expecting. So wherever these people have landed or ended up, okay, underground, Antarctica, wherever they have ended up, they're alive, they're well, but they're not as well off as they thought they'd be. So, oh, it's so sad when billionaires have to buy TV dinners, isn't it? That's an extreme example. I'm just being silly here. So, like I said, even though the rescue efforts are underway and there's 24 more hours on them, and you can laugh at me if I end up wrong and these 5 people show up. What the cards are telling me is it's an elaborate disappearance scheme, and that one or more of them had information or were useful to the Alliance, and so it was facilitated by the Alliance. So that's what I'm getting, and I'll go on record for that, and I'll either get a thumbs up or we'll all laugh at me together, okay? That's it for this video. I thank you so much for your time and attention. And by the way, guys, remember, energy flows where attention goes. So give this whole news cycle a little bit of attention, but your real attention needs to be on your personal health and well-being, and that of your family and those around you. So you take care of you take care of your family first. And remember, you have to be able to detach from news stories and news cycles enough that you can simply observe them without absorbing or getting caught up in the energy or made to feel fear or anxiety. So if you lack that skill, limit your exposure to those type of topics, okay? Because as I said, your most important job here is you. So take good care of yourself, okay? You're valuable, you deserve the best life possible, and you deserve to prioritize your self-care. So never feel guilty if you do. That's it for this video. Until next time, love and light. Bye.